Всем привет, дамы и господа, с вами Алекс Назаренко. Топ-30 худших решений в истории спорта. WatchMojo. Момент.
The announcement by the Canadians that they were going to trade Waugh rocked the entire hockey world.
Сабы. Сейчас нужны сабы.
Rocked the entire... The announcement by the Canadians that they were going to trade Waugh rocked the entire hockey world.
Welcome to WatchMojo, and today we're counting down our picks for the top 30 most regrettable, inadvisable, and downright baffling decisions in the history of sports.
Zidane, the flawed genius with a final shocking chapter in his legacy, walked off never to play again.
Он ушел тренировать.
Number 30. Renault F1 asked Nelson Piquet Jr. to crash on purpose. Tampering with the
Знаешь, нам похуй на свои машины. Да поебать там, разъеби ее.
results of races by intentionally crashing is just about as big a no-no in Formula One as you might imagine. At the 2008 Singapore Grand Prix, Renault F1 team instructed driver Nelson Piquet Jr. to deliberately crash his car mid-race.
That's Nelson Piquet. And that is likely, I would have thought, to bring out a safety car, is it? It's off the line. There's the situation.
He obliged, which led to a safety car being deployed,
Ну сам ты чё, выжил?
benefiting a pit stop sequence that helped his teammate Fernando Alonso win the race.
Суки.
About as illegal as it sounds.
Читеры, блядь, читерство нахуй.
It caused some major credibility damage on all sides, and led the F1 to take a long and hard look at exactly how they manage cheating and race manipulation in the sport. All in all, Alonso and Renault won the race, but in doing so, they made a huge miscalculation.
No fine for Renault. Penalty for Renault
Да чё, да блядь, похуй на этих французов.
is disqualification, but suspended for 2 years. So what that comes down to is, provided they don't do something similar within 2 years, they don't have any problem.
Number 29, Chris Webber's timeout. With his Michigan Wolverine
Условно, короче.
trailing in their showdown with North Carolina in the NCAA Division I championship game, Chris Webber made one of the biggest errors imaginable.
Webber brings it into the front court. They have no timeouts remaining.
Too many timeouts, it's a technical foul.
He called a timeout. Michigan doesn't...
Блядь, а я, кстати, хорошее совпадение, мать его. Я только что смотрел плюсы мультфильма «Голд. Мечтай по крупному от Далбека». Кстати, «Голда» я посмотрел на Бусти. Всего 50 рублей в месяц. 50 рублей в месяц.
With his team looking to him for a decisive play, he instead decided to call a timeout, an instinctive move that seemed like a reflex action. The problem? They didn't have any timeouts left, causing a technical foul that effectively ended the match. Thankfully, Webber went on to have a very respectable NBA career, but this incident ended the match. Thankfully,
Какая ирония. 6-7! 6-7!
Webber went on to have
Просто
a
сюжеты
very
порой все разрешивали, что наоборот. Просто переставьте циферки.
respectable NBA career, but this incident was still joked about decades later. It's easy to see why.
What I've learned is that how we define ourselves is really how we handle our moments.
Number 28.
Чего?
How we define ourselves is really how we handle our moments.
Number
Yes.
28, Deflategate. When you're as accomplished and talented as Tom Brady, you don't need to carve out illegal advantages.
Наслушал о нем.
Yet in the 2015 playoffs, he was accused of using underinflated footballs for a 2014 AFC Championship game, which can be easier to grip and throw.
Sources telling our sister network ESPN, this is the play that led to the
Опа.
discovery of what is being dubbed Deflategate. This second quarter play has led to many questioning the integrity of the AFC champs.
An investigation led to Brady being suspended and the team being fined and losing draft picks. It did spring up a debate about how much of an advantage it actually offered, but the scandal was a huge one. Brady's
Ну, не знаю, может быть... Возможно, команде был как-то похуй на драфт. Хотя ладно, это везде важная вещь.
His name was all over the media in the weeks that followed, and not in a good way.
I mean, I feel like I've always played within the rules. I would never do anything to break the rules.
Sure, he achieved so much in the sport that it largely overshadowed this, but Brady's legacy certainly took a hit here, make no mistake. Number 27, Luis Suarez continues to chomp. Out of all of the most bizarre recurring storylines in football, Luis Suarez's tendency to bite his opponents might just be the most incredible of all. He was first flagged for doing this back at Ajax in 2010, where he received a 7-match ban. He then bit Chelsea's Branislav Ivanovic while playing for Liverpool.
I think Branislav Ivanovic is insinuating here that Luis Suarez bit him.
Most famously, he then lit up the World Cup stage by sinking his teeth into Italy legend
Вот это идеально подходит фейспалмовое ебо.
Games from all international competition. It's not like Suarez doesn't have much to fall back on. He was one of the greatest strikers of his era. However, this one oddity has followed his legacy, confusing his fans to this day.
Well, that was a bite, and we've yet to see conclusive proof.
El Pistolero.
That's the third time that Luis Suarez has committed that particular crime.
Number 26, Guardiola drops Rodri in Champions League final. Although the 11 players on the pitch are the ones responsible for the majority of the work involved, the 2021 Champions League final shows how pivotal a manager's role can be. Pep Guardiola, for whatever reason, opted to drop the future Ballon d'Or winner from his final lineup against Chelsea. It was a move that baffled fans, but perhaps Guardiola knew something they didn't. In the end, Rodri's presence was missed. Chelsea won the match, and Guardiola was forced to later admit that he had made an error in judgment by benching such an important player. Number 25, Anderson Silva flies too close to the sun. Part of the magic and appeal of Anderson Silva during his prime was how gleefully he took risks inside the octagon. Dropping his hands and baiting his opponents into range was part and parcel of the Anderson Silva experience. However, for as much as that play acting helped him in fights against guys like Forrest Griffin and Stephen Bonner, the All-American Chris Weidman was a different breed. Silva was clearly not respecting the striking skills of Weidman in the opening exchanges. At one point, the Spider did his usual dropped hands, leaning away from the incoming '64 NHL amateur draft.
There was no hockey player quite like Ken Dryden. Drafted by the Boston Bruins, but traded to the rival Montreal Canadiens, he studied at Cornell University, where he backstopped the Big Red to 3 consecutive ECAC championships.
However, they traded him to the Montreal Canadiens before he even made a mark, not knowing the mistake they had just made. Dryden quickly became one of the best goalies in hockey, leading Montreal to multiple Stanley Cups and winning major awards. The Bruins had a franchise-defining player in their hands, but they let him slip.
Despite his brief 8-year career, Dryden remains near the top of every statistical category for Montreal goaltenders. He won 6 Stanley Cups, posted a career 2.24 goals against average, and never lost more than 10 games in a given regular season.
Number 23, the miracle of the Meadowlands. When the New York Giants found themselves
New York City boy, you never have a birthday. Охуенная песня Пэтча.
Holding a 17-12 lead over the Philadelphia Eagles on November 19th, 1978. The game plan should have been simple.
And the Eagles out of timeouts. As the clock winds out on the Philadelphia Eagles, a game they thought would project them into a possible wild card position had they won.
With mere seconds on the clock, all they had to do was take a knee and run down the clock. The Eagles had no timeouts left. It was almost too perfect. Instead, they tried to run a regular play. And then the quarterback, Joe Pisarcik, fumbled the ball, causing the turnover that led to a miraculous touchdown by Herman Edwards. They called it the miracle of the Meadowlands, but in reality, mishap is the much better word for what went down.
You talk to real Giant fans, and they'll tell you that it was a terrible moment, but it actually was the beginning of a new era.
Number 22, trading Luka Doncic for AD. The reaction to the news that Luka Doncic would be traded to the Lakers for Anthony Davis was one of shock.
Where were you all on Saturday night when the most shocking trade in NBA history came down? I had to make sure Shams didn't get hacked. We're going to cover every angle of this shocking deal that sent Luka Doncic to Los Angeles for Anthony Davis.
On one side, the Mavericks had Doncic, a young and truly talented player who had the potential to lead the league for years to come. The Lakers had Davis.
Честно, я слышал про Луку Дончича в треке «Он же Будда» и думал, что он футболист.
An elite,
Может, перепутал его с Лукой Модричем?
but aging talent with an injury-prone streak. Despite the other aspects of the trade, the money, the picks, and supplementary players, this was what stood out. Aspects of the trade, the money, the picks, and supplementary players, this was what stood out. It was immediately called one of the most lopsided deals in NBA history, and after just one season, Davis was traded by the Mavericks to the Wizards. If cutting costs was the goal, then mission accomplished, but this one was certainly an oddity in modern basketball.
I don't think you trade a guy like Luka Doncic if he's unhappy. You try to make him happy. I think you trade him when you're unhappy. And so there was something about the management that probably they were unhappy with that made this happen.
Number 21, Phil Mickelson's driver. Decision-making can often be just as important as high-level technique when it comes to performance.
Like this one going way left, way left.
For Phil Mickelson, he was one hole away from winning his first U.S. Open in 2006 when he decided to use a driver on the 18th hole. This was a baffling decision to many onlookers, but perhaps Mickelson knew something we didn't. Turns out he did not. The aggressive line led to a cascade of errors and a double bogey, losing his pole position. Aggressive line led to a cascade of errors and a double bogey, losing his pole position.
You see the shock on his face right now. He knows he's hit a horrendous shot. Just look at this sullen look right there. It's like ashen look. Like he aged 5 years on that shot.
Mickelson himself labeled it his, quote, dumbest shot, making it a true example of how not to manage risk at the final hurdle. Number 20, Japan's judo humiliation.
Я, кстати, когда занимался дзюдо.
The hometown crowd at the Tokyo Olympics was electric. It was 1964, and the IOC had just added judo to the games for the very first time. It was supposed to be a national showcase, Japan's own martial art on their home turf. Their champions were destined for gold. For 3 weight classes, they were right. Japanese judoka swept the medals, but the federation's critical mistake was hubris. They believed no outsider could possibly claim the new open weight division. By underestimating Anton Geesink, they left themselves vulnerable. The Dutch giant toppled Akio Kaminaga in the final, delivering a shock on home soil. Japan's national pride had turned into an Olympic humiliation, and the loss became a lasting lesson. Never assume victory is guaranteed. Number 19, England's cricket bodyline tactics. The Ashes represent one of cricket's fiercest rivalries, England and Australia. But England's tactics in 1932 nearly tore the game and the British Empire apart.
There are 2 teams out there. One is playing cricket, the other is making no attempt to do so.
To contain Australian star Don Bradman, Captain Douglas Jardine ordered bodyline bowling. Fast deliveries aimed at
Я только сейчас понял.
Captain Douglas Jardine
Этот микрофон напоминает барабан, блядь, телефона этого, блядь.
Ordered bodyline bowling. Fast deliveries aimed at the batsman's body, with fielders crowding the leg side. It worked on the scoreboard as England won the series, but the tactic was a colossal mistake. Players were injured, crowds were outraged, and Australia's government formally protested. The diplomatic rift between the 2 countries lingered for years.
It was so devastating to Anglo-Australian relations.
Relations between them were poisoned until the outbreak of World War II forced them to reconcile. Number 18, Lindsay Jacobellis blows it.
Ну хоть что-то хорошее принесла Вторая мировая.
Snowboarding was
a
sport coming into full international recognition in 2006. The snowboard cross event was making its Olympic debut in Turin. Young American superstar Lindsay Jacobellis was poised for a coronation, seconds away from winning the event's very first gold. Instead of cruising to victory, she went for a flashy grab on the last jump, wiping out spectacular. The showboating move cost her the gold, as Switzerland's Tanja Frieden sped past to steal it. The fall haunted Jacobellis for years, replayed every time the Olympics rolled around. It wasn't until 2022 that she finally captured that elusive gold medal. It was a long-awaited but bittersweet redemption after one of the game's most famous wipeouts. Number 17, Jean Van de Velde goes for the green. He arrived at the 18th hole of Carnoustie on the verge of victory. He needed only a double bogey to secure the championship. Most golfers in that situation would play it safe.
You lucky little rascal. And that bounced and seemed to go way to the right.
The Frenchman, though, pulled out his driver and attacked. His ball landed in the rough. Tough, but survivable. Then his next shot ricocheted off a grandstand. A later attempt landed in the water. His meltdown seemed to unfold in slow motion before the entire world. After removing his shoes and contemplating a shot from the burn, he finally staggered to a triple bogey. That forced a playoff he'd go on to lose, cementing one of the most infamous collapses in golf history.
He had it in the palm of his hand. Around the handles of the jug. It was snatched away.
Number 16, the trade, NFL. If the end goal for the Minnesota Vikings was to bring about a total overhaul of their franchise by trading for Dallas Cowboys star Herschel Walker in 1989, it's pretty clear they didn't succeed.
It is mind-boggling that we were able to make this deal. One owner said it's a great train robbery.
Never before in sports had such a trade existed. Between 3 teams, the trade involved 18 players and draft picks, all centered around one of the most in-demand athletes in sports, Walker. It was a truly lopsided trade, and the Vikings ended up suffering the consequences of putting all of their eggs in one basket. Unfortunately, Walker failed to make any impact on the playoffs during his time there. The Cowboys, on the other hand, leveraged their draft picks into a dynasty foundation that served them well in the decade that followed.
The fundamentals behind the trade were draft picks for the future to build for the Dallas Cowboys. At the very same time, have players involved that could contribute immediately in 1989 to the Dallas Cowboys.
Number 15, the IOC lets Russians compete. Russian athletes doping has been an open secret and the butt of international jokes for decades. But in 2015, a scandal erupted. Evidence of a massive state-sponsored scheme and cover-up stretched across sports.
For years, international sports competitions have unknowingly been hijacked.
McLaren. Хули он не синий?
Are the Russians?
Ну, как его, с кем из этого голубой? Он скорее голубой, да.
Coaches and athletes have been playing on an uneven field. Sports fans and spectators have been deceived.
The next year, the IOC had a chance to make a statement at the Rio Olympics. But instead of banning Russia outright, it allowed most athletes to compete. 2 years later in Pyeongchang, Russia was officially
Зато какой эпичный финал, блядь, был с немцами вроде бы. Мы с дедушкой смотрели.
Most of the world celebrated until the Olympic athletes from Russia marched in under a neutral flag. The loophole became a running joke as Russia kept winning medals while facing no real consequences.
Some Russian athletes, many of whom often medal in the Winter Games, can play if they can prove they're clean of
нам поебать, просто дайте там выступать под каким-нибудь флагом.
Performance-enhancing
drugs.
But they'll have to wear neutral, non-Russian uniforms.
Even today, the IOC finds pathways for Russians to compete, raising criticism.
Правда, это было безуспешно в зимних Олимпийских играх, что все же.
That the organization values spectacle over accountability. Number 14, Tiger Woods' affairs. At the peak of his career, Woods wasn't merely the best golfer in the world, he was one of the most recognizable brands on earth.
He was the ultimate competitor. He did what he had to do to win.
It certainly created Tiger and everybody else.
Then came 2009 and the personal choices that shattered it all. Woods' multiple extramarital affairs came to light in a tabloid firestorm. His private life splashed across magazine covers and TV screens worldwide. His marriage collapsed and so did his sponsorships. Gatorade, AT&T, and Accenture all bailed. Only Nike stuck around. Analysts estimated the fallout cost
Слушай, что, Nike разрывали контракт? Нет? Окей.
him billions in endorsements and tournament revenue. Though Tiger clawed his way back on the course.
Это как с Региной Тодоренко. Сама виновата. Письку засала. Ну, короче, да, памперс, хуямперс, блядь, все отлетело в пизду, блядь.
2019 Masters,
все, блядь.
his reputation never fully recovered.
У нас нет культуры отмены, поэтому у Регинта редко никакой репутации, плохой, хороший, блядь. Культура отмены сработала только с одним человеком, который тоже орел решка. Это Настя Ивлеева.
The scandal remains one of the
комментатор очень эпичный, блядь.
costliest self-inflicted mistakes in sports history. Number 13, the European Super League. When
это хуйня.
Europe's richest football clubs announced a breakaway Super League in 2020.
Ну, посос, блядь, чё?
21, the backlash was as instant as it was full of rage.
It's a criminal act.
A spit in the face.
It is a nuclear
Это был превью.
Fans, players, governments, even royalty slammed it as a soulless cash grab. It was universally understood that this
Лига конференций прокатила, а это нихуя.
league would destroy the spirit of competition in the sport. Within 48 hours of the announcement, most clubs pulled out in embarrassment. The idea, though, never really died. Legal battles and backroom deals have kept the project alive in fits and starts, with renewed pushes surfacing even in 2025.
We don't want to be consumers. We're actual supporters of a football club.
Бесполезно,
so there has to be a sort of two-way relationship there.
What began as a poorly thought-out power play has become an ongoing tug-of-war over the soul of European football. Number 12, Coach Little keeps Martinez in the game. Game 7 of the 2003 ALCS had Boston fans dreaming of finally knocking out the hated Yankees.
But when the Red Sox came back in the Bronx to tie the playoff series at 3 games, they looked like a team of destiny.
The curse of the Bambino felt ready to break. With a 5-2 lead in the 8th, though, ace Pedro Martinez was clearly tiring. Manager Brady Little had relievers ready, but chose to leave Pedro on the mound. The Yankees pounced, stringing together hit after hit to tie the game. Hours later, Aaron Boone's walk-off homer in the 11th sent New York to the World Series. Little's decision cost him his job and remains one of baseball's legendary blunders.
That cost him the game, that cost him the series, that cost him a chance at the World Series, and ultimately it cost Brady Little his job.
If not for the Red Sox's championship redemption the following year, he might still rank alongside Bill Buckner as Boston's most notorious scapegoat. Number 11, the 2004 NHL lockout. More than 20 years ago, NHL owners and players clashed over a new collective bargaining agreement. The league demanded a salary cap to curb escalating costs. The players' union balked.
It's time to bid farewell to the NHL's 2004-2005 season and what might have been.
Neither side blinked, and the NHL became the first major North American sports league to cancel an entire season. Fans were furious as their arenas went dark. For the first time since 1919, the Stanley Cup stayed put. Though the eventual deal gave owners their salary cap, the damage to the sport's popularity was lasting.
Our Board of Governors gave its unanimous approval to a collective bargaining agreement that signals a new era for our league.
A year of hockey was completely erased thanks to greed and stubbornness. Number 10, 1 yard to victory.
Play clock at 5. Pass is intercepted at the goal line by Malcolm Butler.
With the clock winding down on Super Bowl 49, the Seattle Seahawks were closing in on defeating the Patriots and winning the big game for the second consecutive year. All that was left for them was to move the ball 1 yard into the end zone.
I can't believe the call.
With beast mode Marshawn Lynch on their side, it seemed like the Seahawks were almost definitely going to run it in and win the game. However, in a shocking turn of events, Seattle decided to try and pass the ball instead.
Везде в футбольной лиге была такая ситуация. Я болельщик Амкала, слежу за всем, стараюсь смотреть все матчи МФЛ, финал, Брокбойс Титан. Игрок команды Брокбойс Алишер Рахимов мог просто спокойно выбить мяч, нет, нахуй, он побежал добивать. В итоге Титан сравнял счет, в серии пенальти Броуки проебали, и они не стали чемпионом сезона.
This led to Malcolm Butler intercepting the pass and New England winning the Super Bowl.
It's gotta be one of the toughest calls in Super Bowl history.
Number 9, Gretzky is benched.
Is this the toughest moment in your hockey career? Well, to say the least, we're devastated.
It was the 1998 Nagano Winter Olympic Games, and in the hockey semifinals, Canada was forced into a shootout with the Czech Republic. despite being clear favorites to win the game. But all was not lost. Canada had the star power, including the great one, Wayne Gretzky. There was no way they could lose the shootout, right? Well, for unknown reasons, the coach, Mark Crawford, didn't nominate Gretzky to take a shot. Due to this
долбоёбское решение, просто долбоёбское.
Highly questionable decision, Canada lost the game and finished 4th. The details behind Crawford's medal losing choice to bench Gretzky have never been explained.
And I feel so sorry for Gretzky. You know, you can almost see it in his eyes. This is it for me for the Olympics. And
да, бля, не только для тебя, а для какого-то еще канадца по имени Уэйн.
Number 8.
У него фамилия Грецкий.
The 2002 figure skating mishap.
David, what was your first thought when the numbers went up?
It was like a punch in the stomach.
In the 2002 Winter Olympics, Russia was awarded gold in the pairs figure skating event, to the shock of many, including the silver medalist.
Ну, бля, наши фигуристки.
Jamie Salé and David
Разъебывают.
Peltier of Canada put on a performance that many felt should have won the duo gold. As the scores came in, so did many complaints, and the judges were accused of fixing the
Среди судей были русские.
competition. This was confirmed when a French judge broke down in her hotel and confessed that she was pressured by the head of the French skating
Я посмотрел как сон. Блять. Или как пылесос
to give the
нахуй.
Russians a higher score. This led to both Russia and Canada being awarded the gold.
They could see
Не
that
ваше,
we
не
made
наше.
absolutely no mistake, and it has to be that picky when two skaters do skate well.
Блять,
and they
уберите этот
definitely
вертолет, который
did
не
make a
летает.
mistake.
Number 7. Pacquiao's split decision loss to Bradley. In 2012, Manny Pacquiao was boxing's biggest global star. Audiences were primed to watch his bout, defending the WBO welterweight title against undefeated Timothy Bradley.
All eyes on Pacquiao to see if he's ready for the fight or if he has been diminished by his personal transformation, as so many seem to be thinking is the case.
For most fans and commentators, the fight didn't feel close. Pacquiao dominated with speed and power, outlanding Bradley in nearly every statistical category. By the final bell, the outcome seemed obvious. Then came the shock. A split decision for Bradley. The arena erupted in boos, and outrage swept the sport. The call was so controversial it sparked accusations of corruption and renewed demands for reform in boxing's scoring system.
And I think that is a terrible, bogus decision.
I'm dumbfounded.
Pacquiao and Bradley would fight twice more, with Pacquiao winning both fights. But the 2012 decision remains infamous. Number 6, the Pete Rose scandal.
The banishment for life of Pete Rose from baseball is the sad end of a sorry episode.
Pete Rose should be a baseball legend. With many record-breaking feats under his belt, he would have gone down as one of the best hitters in MLB history. However, due to his gambling scandal in 1989, this will never be the case. Rose was caught betting on Cincinnati Reds games while he was employed as a manager for the team. As a result of this, he was deemed permanently ineligible for the Baseball Hall of Fame. The Hit King's poor decisions and apparent gambling addiction may have destroyed his legacy forever.
Why would you, the cardinal rule of no betting?
I don't know. I was stupid. I made mistakes.
Ages of extra time in the 2006 World Cup final between France
Да почему в грудину, почему не в бат?
and Italy, star midfielder Zinedine Zidane was needed for the possible penalty shootout that would follow. However, numerous insults from Italian centre-back Marco Materazzi provoked Zidane to headbutt the Italian, and he was sent off. The game went to penalties, where Zidane would have certainly made a big impact for France. However, they lost to Italy instead. Zidane has publicly said that he wouldn't have been able to live with himself if he wasn't sent off. We're not sure that France would say the same thing.
You can't excuse that. Zidane's career ends in disgrace.
Number 4, the MLB steroid era.
One of those guys you looked at and said, that's a Hall of Famer. Well, a Hall of Fame career perhaps, but the choice that he made to use performance-enhancing drugs To me, that does not define a Hall of Famer.
Throughout the 1990s, Major League Baseball's poor sanctions on the use of steroids led to crazy high stats across the league. Due to the use of performance-enhancing drugs, some players hit a lot more home runs than the previous average.
Казалось бы, не самый активный вид спорта, но даже тут принимают стероиды, бля. Ну не стероиды, препараты для... Ну, наркотики.
And this wasn't a gradual change either. Between the 1995 and 1996 seasons, the number of 40-plus home run hitters increased from 4 to 17. These extraordinary numbers caused a series of steroid scandals involving the likes of Barry Bonds and Mark McGwire. This led to long-term ineligibility for some and major health concerns for others.
А потом там экран загорелся, блядь, по-настоящему.
Bud Selig, he will be defined by how this era is viewed by history.
Number 3, Patrick Roy versus Mario Tremblay.
Era is viewed by history.
Number 3, Patrick Roy versus Mario Tremblay.
Bang, bang, 8, 9 goals. I didn't have any choice then, and I know that he was mad.
It was an off night for the Montreal Canadiens in December of '95. The team was suffering at the hands of the Detroit Red Wings. However, it could have gone very differently. It was well known that goalie Patrick Roy and new coach Mario Tremblay were not the best of friends. But this poor relationship escalated after Tremblay waited until Roy had let in 9 goals before switching goalies. Tremblay's power play contributed to the biggest home defeat in Canadiens history. Montreal would lose.
Ой, промазал. Удивительный цирк. Финал на канале.
Their star goalie shortly after, and Roy went on to win 2 more Stanley Cups with the Colorado Avalanche.
It's not easy, and it's too bad how this
Ой,
situation.
как жаль.
Number 2, Sam Bowie over Michael Jordan.
Sam Bowie was really good.
Бля, как можно заменить Майкла Джордана?
But by the time they drafted him, he'd missed 2 full years.
Нахуй, блядь, заебись, вы выбрали челикс на драфте, он проебал 2 сезона. Заебись, пацаны, вообще охуенный выбор.
He's been redshirted twice. To me, it's more of a what if.
Nobody can see the future, but they can dwell on the past, especially if you're the Portland Trailblazers. In the 1984 NBA draft, Portland was on the clock for the 2nd overall pick, selecting Sam Bowie from Kentucky. However, in the 3rd pick, Chicago drafted Michael Jordan. Bowie was a decent player, but his career... 3rd pick, Chicago drafted Michael Jordan. Bowie was a decent player, but his career was plagued with numerous injuries, making this a bad decision before we even look at what Jordan accomplished on the court. He was, and still is, a pop culture powerhouse. We can be sure that Portland is still kicking themselves about this one.
How could people not see this in the moment? You gotta be kidding me. Who passes up this guy?
Before we continue, check out the single from SoundMojo's album Balance. Classical music reimagined as rock, hard rock, and metal. Check out the full track and album below. Check out this single from SoundMojo's album Balance. Number 1, Babe Ruth, franchise killer.
New York never was able to beat the Red Sox before this. The Red Sox could never beat New York after the sale either.
Still recognized today as one of the greatest hitters in baseball history, Babe Ruth was possibly the biggest steal for the Yankees, no matter the price. After building a legend in Boston, he was sold to New York's better-known team in 1919. This deal saw the beginning of the curse of the Bambino. After Ruth's move, he managed to capture 4 World Series titles, while the Sox were in the early stages of an 86-year championship threat. Not only did Ruth bring New York a lot of glory, but his departure from Boston fueled one of the greatest rivalries in sports.
Harry Frazee was sitting in a taxi, and he was bragging that he sold Ruth, and the cab driver slammed the brakes, pulled him out, and punched him in the nose.
What do you consider?
Хуя, блядь. Сука, ты сын, блядь, пидор, как ты мог продать руку, сука. Ёбаный ру. Ставьте лайки, подписывайтесь на канал, жмите на колокольчик, чтобы сказать новое видео, пишите комментарии, ставьте в телегу, на бусти. С вами был Алекс Назаренко, всем спасибо за просмотр, всем пока.